Hi friends, today we're going to discuss about media reporting of suicide in India, Werther versus Papageno effect. I'm Dr. Suresh Paradmat, Professor of Psychiatry, Head of Telemedicine Center, Head of Forensic Psychiatry Unit at AIIMS, Bangalore. There was an interesting article published in 2010 in British Journal of Psychiatry. This discussed about role of media in reporting about suicide, basically completed and prevented suicide. Prevented suicide is nothing but attempted suicide, a sensitive way of presenting it. And they discussed about Werther versus Papageno effect. That means if there is a responsible reporting of media regarding suicide, decrease the suicide rate in the population. If there was a negative way of publicizing the suicide, any suicide, including celebrity suicide, increase the rate of suicide. So this article established the link beyond doubt. So today we are going to discuss about Indian media, how they are reporting the celebrity suicide. So before we enter into that, we will discuss about Werther effect and Papageno effect. What is Werther effect? The first well-documented association between media and the suicide. This was established in 17th century. In one of the novel titled as The Sorrow of Young Werther. This novel was written by Werther. In this novel, the main character Werther, when his love of his life, a woman who rejects his love, he shoots himself with a pistol. And whoever read the novel had a suicidal ideas and some of them even committed suicide. So this was called as Werther effect. So this was the first documented evidence of media influencing the population committing suicide. So this was also later was established in many celebrity suicides and the reporting way the media carried out. And they called it as copycat suicide, and also it is called as contagious suicide. That means suicide, if it is reported in a very irresponsible way, can influence the behavior of those weak personalities or people who are contemplating suicide because of the social effect. For example, during this pandemic, many people have lost their jobs, they are in financial trouble on various reasons, they are in a highly stressful situation. During this time, if media represents the suicide as a glorified, sensational way or romanticizing, the people who are contemplating suicide may actually do suicide. So this is called as copycat suicide or also called as contagious suicide. What are the important points or the hallmark of this? Whenever a sensational reporting of celebrity suicide occurs, that triggers a what we call it as imitative suicidal behavior in the general population. It is also called as copycat. The attempt will be of similar methodology, which usually occurs between 2 days to 2 weeks, sometimes 2 months, and usually they are youngsters, followers of the celebrity. Many a time they are depressed, they are highly suggestible personalities, and there are many people who are contemplating suicide because of various social reasons and financial reasons. And this gives a model for them whenever there is a trouble, commit suicide. So this is called as copycat suicide. This is how the contagious suicide has been reported. Coming to the Papageno effect. Coming to this Papageno effect, there is a responsible way of reporting suicide by media. That is Papageno. Papageno is basically a character in the opera of Magic Flute. In this again, the main character, Papageno, fears that he has lost his love of his life and she is gone missing. So he is contemplating to commit suicide or by killing himself. During that time, there are 3 characters or the boys who come here and save him. They will teach him, instead of committing suicide, there is a way to live life, cope with the suicide. So this was an amazing example of Papageno effect. However, the Papageno effect, the studies are very less. But however, regarding the Werther's effect, the studies are more because the media generally has been sensational and suicide spikes are increasing. Whereas regarding Papageno effect, the medias are very less in reporting about Papageno effect. So the studies are very less in this area. But however, it's worth what is exploring in this. But at the same time, if you ask any public health expert, even a small effect in the health change behavior will have a larger impact in a huge population of people, a huge population like in India. So definitely worth looking into Papageno effect. Because of this, World Health Organization and many organizations came up with best practices and recommendation for reporting of suicide, especially in media. The first one was in 2008 by WHO, that is World Health Organization. They discussed very detailedly preventing suicide, a resource for media professionals. At the same time, in 2019, Press Council of India also came up with the guideline. That was on 13th September 2019. They also discussed about the way the suicide has to be reported and the way it should not be reported was discussed. At the same time, they also mentioned Mental Health Care Act, Section 115 needs to be discussed. In this background, All India Institute of Medical Science, New Delhi, did an amazing study, an infodemiology study on Indian media reporting about suicide. So this is a well-documented study. It is published in Asian Journal of Psychiatry. The title of the study goes like this: The Quality of Online Reporting of Celebrity Suicide in India and its Association with Subsequent Online Suicide-Related Search Behavior Among General Population, an infodemiology study. This study was conducted by none other than Professor Rajesh Sagar. He is a well-known psychiatrist in All India Institute of Medical Science. Authors of the study came with the results after the analysis, the potential harmful media reporting characteristics according to WHO suicide reporting guidelines. And what was the violation? Please look at the column on total, N and percentage. Use of sensational language was 58%. The word committed was used in 18%. Reporting of suicide method was 34%. Detailed account of the method was not used in any of the media. That's good. But however, suicide reported site was given approximately 60%. Negative life events mentioned was 9.5%. And coming to the reference to the cause of the suicide was 17%. And the other disturbing was showing the photograph of the celebrity, that is 85%, and also discussing about the social media posts of the behaved person. That means showing his tweets, showing his basically what are the things in posts he has done in either in the various Facebook and all those places, showing the personal information was 53%. And also making a sensational headline was 39%, and word suicide was used in 16.5%. So this was the results which has been depicted by the AIIMS New Delhi study. So this is really a disturbing because majority of the media did not follow the World Health Organization guidelines, also the Press Council of India guidelines. So coming to the how media should report the suicide. Utilize this opportunity to educate public on suicide. Encourage them to seek help. Educate about the people what are the warning signs. What are the causes of this suicide? How the mental illness has an impact on suicide. Relationship problems. Providing coping tips during difficult situation. Where the support is available, where the help is available should be provided. And also, the media should be very sensitive because there are family and the fans are grieving. You should not become insensitive and report that. And they also report about the available helpline locally. At the same time, they also should counter the perception that suicide is the only way out for difficult situation. Those kinds of myths should be busted. And they have to place this article about suicide somewhere in the end, not in the front page. And also if it is in the newscast media or in the news television channel, it should be somewhere in the middle of the story, not the headlines, like groundbreaking headlines should not be there. And they should burst about the myths about the suicide. At the same time, they should also make attempts to educate about Mental Health Care Act and what the Section 115 discusses about this. And also, if it is worthwhile, discussing or interviewing the mental health professionals how to cope with these kinds of suicidal ideas. And also, media should avoid certain things. What are those? The media should make all possible way avoid this depicting the method and the location of the suicide, sharing of the content of the suicide, which is completely no, because it is very personal. It should not be made public. Describing the personal details about the person who has died, presenting suicide as a common acceptable solution, which should be completely said no to it, Reporting the same story many times in a day should not be done. Speculating the reason for the suicide, sensationalizing this death, glamorizing, romanticizing this suicide should not be done. Prominent placement of the story should be avoided, and also showing the photograph, video footage of the suicide should be completely avoided, because this is Werther effect, and this is going to increase the suicide. And because of media's irresponsible reporting may have a spike in the suicide, which is unwanted during this pandemic. To conclude, media reporting of suicide is a double-edged sword. If it is done in an inappropriate, sensational way of doing, reporting of the suicide is done, there is a contagious copycat suicide will increase. That is Werther effect. If the media does a responsible reporting of the suicide and giving some coping skills, help-seeking behavior, if it is doing it, the suicide rates will decrease in India. My dear friends, journalists and psychiatrists, please don't do Werther effect. Please do foster the Papageno effect and decrease the suicide rate in India, because it is in the epidemic state currently, the suicide. Thank you very much for your valuable time. Stay safe. If you like this channel, please do subscribe to the channel.